Hi, thanks. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm quite sure, like we just said, JFrog is more than $1 billion company and managing petabytes of data from all their customers. And I'm here to talk about our experience with big data and how we change the world with the data we manage and the data we do. So I'm Fred Simon. I'm one of the co-founders of JFrog, and I want to talk about dataism and dataism, the new religion. So dataism came before, but it mainly got launched by Yuval Noah Harari. I know that all of you read his second book, Homo Deus, and in the last chapter he talks about dataism and basically the fact that human civilization, human history, so Yuval Noah Harari is a very amazing historian with a strange way of looking at things and a very opening view of the world. And he described basically the fact that all human society and all human civilization and all human adventure companies and so on are trying to increase the data flow, are trying to increase the amount of data that they are absorbing and that they are releasing, and the amount of data that is going through the system. Every time we are trying to do something that stops or reduces this data flow, it usually ends in death or ends of the Chinese empire just before the Mongol. They started to close down and they ended up the communism and all this kind of data and all this kind of adventure. Basically, by just reducing the data flow, it proved to reduce. So it may be some kind of correlation, doesn't mean causation, but still, basically an alive organism is generating more data than a dead one. That kind of makes sense. But through the ages, we saw a lot of growth, and we saw also a lot of growth with the human population. As we all know, we have really high exponential growth of human population. But it's not only the human population that did the exponential growth of the data flow, is that every one of us are generating more data than any civilization in the Middle Ages or before. So we are increasing the number of people, but we are increasing greatly the amount of data and the amount of data sharing that is going between us. And basically, the main question is, how did we do that? How did we manage from a single human being to be capable of increasing by 40% year over year at this amazing rate the amount of data that is flowing through us? Okay? And the main reason is that we are weak. And as you saw since the beginning of the show and the beginning of the day, what we did is that we stopped managing most of the data we are managing. We are delegating it to machines. And it's today machines that are managing this data flow and increasing greatly the amount of information and the amount of data that is going through the system. And one of the main things that I want to point out is the amount of software that we are using. So I'm JFrog. We are the main software distributor and package manager of the world. And so we are the biggest OSS binary repository manager distribution. And in the world of software, this great increase and this transformation from human power work to machine power work is actually going on for quite some time. So it's never looked at directly, but it's really a huge transformation. So it's called the DevOps wave, and there are going to be some more talk that we're going to talk about it. But this DevOps wave allowed each and single developer on this planet to create way more quality software than any of our predecessors. I can say for myself, since I started this work. And one of the main things, so I don't know if anyone talked about it today, but it's actually, we really enjoy being part of the flow. This is what we are looking. This is what gives kind of meaning of life for people and for environment. It's to be part of this data flow. It's to receive from your peers, from email, watching video, and all this input that we are getting from the system. And and from civilization, and we are generating way more video and emails and asking for meetings that are maybe boring, but we are really happy to be part of this really nice meeting with a bunch of friends around us. And so we really enjoy being part of the global data flow, of being part of dataism. And this is why Yuval Noah Harari created this dataism word, and the new religion is that we are actually looking for it. We are actually looking for it. But there is something really strange that is going on, is that since the beginning of the day, you just keep talking about how we can create machine, how we can create software that will manage this flow for us. Okay? And the first one to do it are the developers. It's basically the developer, and so it happened to me more than 13 years ago. I got tired of looking at my colleague doing repetitive tasks and doing the same thing again and again when they were writing code and where they were writing software. And I decided to spend a lot of my time and energy consulting and helping them using machine to create software and using machine to create better software. And today, it's kind of common to hear about the story of a developer that created a piece of software that is completely automating his job, going to his manager and saying, here is the software that is doing all the job that you asked me to do for the next year, and to see the bad reaction of the managers. So this is where we are going. We are going towards a system where we are basically programming machine to manage the flow for us. Will we be more happy or not? And so this is the history of the DevOps revolution. Okay, the developer creating software to make software, higher quality software more often and more frequently. Okay, so this revolution started once we started to write software, and one of the main example and good example of this transformation is the Git and the Git story. So Linus Torvald, the creator of the Linux and the the most popular open source software out there, basically was tired of doing the pull request and merging the request of the entire planet of this huge number of people contributing to the Linux kernel. And so he created a software called Git that allow him to track the changes and to do the merge and the branching very rapidly and easily. So this is a typical example of a huge transformation of the way we write software and the DevOps industry, where we use software to create software. And today we are, in every company, we are creating branches whenever we wish. We are doing the mergers. We can do multiple tests in all this environment. And basically, we are feeding the OSS. So there is a talk after about open source software. But open source software is basically this data flow from the software perspective. And I want to say that open source was basically the first big data, the first big data flow, international data flow, where people are just sharing huge quantity of bytes and petabytes toward each other, building on top of each other, and creating this huge flow of high-quality software from the end user, from the developer all the way to the end user. And we keep building on top of each other. And we are really, really happy at JFrog to be part of it and to make it happen and promote it forward. And so, like I said, we are pushing every developer to continue to write their own automation and change the way they do their job. And I'm really happy to see how the manager in the future will react when they're going to see basically someone coming and said, here is a machine that is doing the job that I was doing until now. And also to change a little bit this approach of creating some kind of a tools team or a different department that will look at how people are working and trying to replace them with machine. Okay, the people that are doing the job are the best ones to actually develop and program their own automation. So I'm going to end with my book, Liquid Software, which is basically the push and the writing of the future of this continuous update and continuous flow from the developer to the end user. Thank you very much.